Greetings, friends, and welcome to Captain Samuel's Sibilant Undulant Impact Soiree. Cluster was written by Piers Anthony in 1977. Now, Piers Anthony is a white gentleman born in England, and he emigrated to the U.S. at a young age. He's actually still with us at the impressive age of 90. Cluster is science fiction. Now, this is the part of the book where I do the synopsis, and that's quite a challenge for this novel. Let me put it this way. This book is like watching computer-generated alien porn while taking cultural sensitivity classes and also doing a Sudoku puzzle. So, it's set in a future where matter can be transmitted long distances, but doing so is incredibly expensive. Humanity and other alien species are in contact, but planets far from Sol, or Sun, regress to more primitive levels. The book focuses on Flint, a caveman who lives on Outworld at the edge of the human sphere of galactic influence. Flint has some bigotry toward the Polarian aliens who also live on his planet, but he has a tutor from Earth called the Shaman who tells him to try to look at the world from the Polarians' perspective. Another galaxy, the Andromedans, are sucking the atomic energy from the Sol sphere, but also from the other spheres inhabited by other aliens, so an alliance needs to be formed between all the spheres. Another concept to understand is Kirlian energy. This is like life vitality force, and if a person has strong Kirlian energy, then just their consciousness can be transmitted into the host of another creature. It's more efficient to just transmit a creature's consciousness than their entire body. Flint has the highest Kirlian rating in the sphere, and he is pressured by the Earth government into transmitting his consciousness into other aliens in nearby spheres, so that he can teach other alien civilizations how to transmit Kirlian consciousness to form that alliance with them and stop the Andromedans. And if you're a bit confused by that, don't worry, I was too, and we'll talk about that more when I discuss whether I liked or didn't like the book. So the book focuses on Flint transmitting his consciousness into aliens in other spheres, usually into an alien that was on the verge of dying. So when Flint arrives, he has culture shock. The mores and bodies of the aliens he inhabits are obviously different. He becomes a multi-segmented humanoid, a jellyfish creature, and a creature composed of biological musical instruments. He also has some adventures in human form. Now, the focus of each of these alien consciousness adventures is how do aliens have sex, and what are the ramifications of how they have sex. Flint solves a lot of conflicts by having sex and using sex creatively, but not always ethically. Flint is opposed by a high Kirlian agent from the Andromeda system, and they get up to some sexual hijinks indeed. What's fascinating is that while the book does have some combat scenes, most of the conflict is resolved through sexual encounters in the bodies of aliens. I do want to say that none of it is explicit or excessive. It's more bizarre and fascinating than off-putting, though there are some concepts and attitudes toward females that could be considered offensive and antiquated. Flint gets over his bigotry towards aliens and learns to see reality through other points of view. And then the ending of the book suddenly reveals ancients who could already transmit Kirlian consciousness and have some super technology powers, and a bunch of aliens all transport to an ancient technology site, and the book suddenly becomes a whodunit murder mystery with convoluted logic puzzle. So, what did I think of this book? Well, I found the plot and some of the situations convoluted. The murder mystery logic puzzle at the end was a total slog and really brought the pacing at the end of the book to an abrupt halt. I also didn't feel a sense of urgency. There were really no descriptions of how the Andromedan energy drain was causing problems or what necessarily made them the bad guys. I really feel like Piers said to himself, wow, I wonder how aliens have sex and how alien cultures view sex. And his publisher told him, okay, but you need to tack on a spy novel too. Piers doesn't always explore sexuality with grace or with political correctness, but what made the novel interesting was its explorations of alien sex and how the alien cultures are affected by that. The alien cultures use pain and sadomasochism. Some alien cultures have 3 sexes that have compulsive sex when all 3 are in the same area. Other alien cultures use taste and circular motions, which have orgasms so hard their wheels literally fall off. This book really had a lot of WTF from my reading fascination to it. And check this out. It's even got diagrams. Wow, man. The imagination and detail on display here is really what carries the book, because you're just not sure what kind of zany over-the-top stuff is going to happen next. Overall, though, I'd say that its flaws and its positives balance each other out, and I would consider this an average book overall. I give it 3 stars. Piers Anthony is actually one of my favorite authors because I grew up reading his Xanth novels. So, if you're a Piers fan and want to check out his work beyond the Xanth novels, then consider giving this one a try. Otherwise, I think you could pass on Cluster. I do plan to continue reading the series. Here's Book 2, Chaining the Lady. Book 3, Curlian Quest. Book 4, Thousand Star. And there's actually a 5th book called Viscous Circle, which I don't own yet. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I just want to say, I'm up to 28 subscribers now, thank you, but it's a long way to 1,000 subscribers, and we all know the fastest way to get there is with, what else? Some hardcore alien porn. Enjoy! He drew a part. It is time, he said. Yes! They circled each other as before. Flint didn't care if the whole of Sphere Polaris was watching. He was going to abate the debt in style. Soapy laid down her provocative taste, and Flint augmented it with his own. The 2 trails fed on each other, building up the mood layer by layer as the 2 wheels spiraled inward toward the center. At last they met. Flint's trunk and Soapy's tail twined together, and their 2 balls touched each other in an electrifying spinning kiss. Flint found that his body needed no instruction. As with Solarians and all other species, both sapient and animal, nature sufficed. He knew it could not be worse than poking a stiffened stick into the body of the loved one. Yet the steps of it astonished the human fragment of his mind, for at the height of his passion, Flint lay down and released his wheel. He had not realized that this was possible. He had supposed it was an inseparable part of his anatomy. Now it rolled slowly across the floor away from him, leaving him lame. Without that wheel, motion was virtually impossible. Only in an extraordinary circumstance would any Polarian part with it. The act of reproduction was one such occasion. Soapy lay down opposite him and moved closer, and Flint took the exposed portion of her wheel into his vacant wheel chamber. The sensations were intensified excruciatingly, for they were direct. Her secretions mixed with his without being diluted by the intervening surface. Trunk and tail reached around to twine together, drawing the connection tight. Now the real action began. The rim of Flint's torso met the rim of Soapy's, sealing all the way around their mutual sphere so that none of it was exposed to the air, and the 2 of them spun it, rapidly, more rapidly than possible in any individual situation, for the wheel-controlling mechanisms of both parties were operating in tandem. Each had specialized adhesive muscles that touched the embedded surface of the wheel, moving it precisely and releasing it to other muscles. This was more than enough for ordinary locomotion, but now it was doubled. The wheel spun so fast that it grew warm, then hot. Both Flint and Soapy secreted extra fluid to bathe that sphere in its sealed chamber and alleviate friction, but still the heat increased. It was like traveling through a boiling lake at super Polarian velocity. Flint knew now that heat was penetrating the globe, making it pervious to the special juices. The elixir was reaching inward, deeper, changing the cellular structure of the mass, activating unique enzymes. At last, something within the wheel reacted. There was an electrochemical shift, as of a fire flaring up. It was the climax, that first stirring of buried animation. There was an instant of almost unbearable rapture as the shock went through the mass, then exhaustion. Flint and Soapy fell apart. The wheel rolled free of both of them, steaming, and while they struggled to regain their strength, Complicated by the absence of the wheels through which they normally ate, respirated, and eliminated, the loose mass began to shake and flex as though something inside were trying to get out. But it did not break open like a hatching egg. It elongated and unfolded stage by stage until it emerged complete, sculptured by the hand of nature, a young Polarian.